Today on the Nerdy Gritty, should we be viewing our beloved characters of the past with the progressive lens of the present?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I'm Fox.
I'm Dez.
That's true,
Fox.
you are.
A cool thing just happened recently. A really cool thing.
I know what you're talking about. It's
GDQ.
Yep, that's what you got to give me a time to say what I'm gonna
Right. You were gonna say exactly that.
You
but
interrupted
I didn't give
me.
you time. I'm sorry. Games Done Quick was just done recently.
Awesome Games Done Quick, specifically.
Yeah. Awesome Games Done Quick was just done recently, and if you guys don't know what that is, it's a speed run fundraiser.
It's a speed running marathon,
right?
That happens literally for a week straight. There are speed runs going 24/7.
And it's amazing.
In an action, not just online. It's not just like Twitch channels. It takes place on Twitch, but it's in location. People go,
attend,
runners go. There's audiences. It's amazing. It's gotten bigger and bigger every year.
So it was really awesome. They raised like $25 million, something like that.
25. I haven't seen that seems like a lot.
I don't know.
It might be not be that much, but that would be the record by like 10 times as last year. Just like I haven't seen the record or seen what they made.
Okay, Google.
They do make millions every year.
How much money did Awesome Games Done Quick raise this year?
And by every year, I mean at both of their events each year.
It has so far hosted
2.3.
2.3 million.
So not 23, 2.3.
There you go. Yeah, but they also do have 2 events each year. They have Awesome Games Done Quick and Summer Games Done Quick.
Yeah.
Where they raise that much money.
Millions of dollars for Doctors Without Borders.
And this year was actually the Cancer Prevention Foundation.
Oh, is that what it was?
Cancer, something like that specifically. I think they might do a different focus each time. Like they do Doctors Without Borders pretty often, at pretty much every time.
Right.
But yeah, it's awesome. All that money literally just comes from people donating to watch.
Yeah, just saying, hey, this was really cool. Have money.
Yeah, there's people, like there are prizes you can win if you donate a certain amount, sure. But what they really do, what I think is really cool is that your donation goes toward things. So if you want a character to have a certain name in a speed run, which is, you can donate toward that. Or if you want a specific, like a popular run to actually happen, then you can donate toward that. And if they hit a certain goal, then you'll see that run happen, which is really fun also. Yeah, there's a lot of like Twitch community involvement in there. And
it's really cool.
Yeah.
I watched Celeste, was one of the speedruns I watched. And I was watching Mr. Rod's playthrough of Celeste.
Yes.
And I stopped watching because it was taking like hours for him to get through each section. So he streamed him playing the whole game and in like 3 or 4 different streams. And then he uploaded each chapter onto YouTube.
Right.
So chapter 1 was like half an hour.
Uh-huh.
Chapter 2 was like an hour and 20 minutes. Chapter 3 was like 2 hours.
Yep.
And then it just kept sticking around that 2-hour mark.
That is why I don't want to play those games.
And his deaths were like 234, things like that. The speedrun I watched, 24 minutes.
The whole game.
The entirety of the game.
Probably no deaths.
So there were 2 deaths.
Maybe 1 or 2, probably on purpose. Yeah.
Exclusively on purpose.
Yeah.
This was the craziest thing about it, is there were things that this guy did. So TaskBot was the speedrunner for this.
Oh, and no, TaskBot's not a speedrunner. TaskBot's a computer program.
Oh, they kept calling him Tas.
Yeah.
They kept calling him Tas.
They refer to the computer program as Tas.
Oh.
Yes. Now I'm sure there is a human speedrunner. It's not going to be 24 minutes.
This dude.
He'll program it. Probably somebody programmed it. Or maybe somebody just goes by TaskBot and just confusing.
I don't know. Whatever it is.
TaskBot is... Task stands for Tool Assisted Speedrun.
That must be what it is.
If you see like those crazy Smash Brother fights,
right?
Like where they're fighting underneath the platform and stuff, those are tool assisted. Like they're not actually people doing them; they're programmed.
But the dude that was speedrunning got 3 different frame perfect events.
Watch Games Done Quick. Donate to them next time they have a thing. If you haven't, I'm gonna also recommend from a couple years ago there was a co-op speed run of GoldenEye, and by co-op I mean it was 2 people. They both had a controller, but only one of them only controlled movement,
And the other one
movement
controlled...
and like vision, like could see where they look, and then the other one controlled shooting. And they speed ran. Ayn Rand. Rand Paul. That's what it is. They Rand Paul'd the game on.
You still put Rand Paul in the present. The
essentially,
past tense, Rand Paul'd.
Dang it! Essentially, with one controller. And it was amazing.
Well, Fox, what have you been up to?
I've been playing a lot of Just Cause, kind of in a finish some games mode right now.
Yeah.
Because there's more games I want to play, but I've told myself I have to finish Just Cause, Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon. Yeah. I get
because you like finishing games.
Right, I do. Yeah. 4.
You're completion.
Yeah, Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon, as well as I'm still not done with Dragon Quest. It's a ridiculously long game.
Holy crap!
I've uploaded 5 episodes this week, and all of those episodes come after the credits.
How many episodes are you at now?
62.
62 episodes.
It might be my longest. I think my longest previously was Breath of the Wild, but I'm not sure exactly how many episodes that had. So, but beside that, I watched a movie on Saturday. A movie that we were, a couple of friends and I were very excited to see when we saw the trailer at first. It was a movie called Mortal Engines.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the concept of this.
Yeah.
It's just
we talked about
the most, we have a little bit, the most ridiculous idea, but could be so cool if it takes itself seriously enough, but also at the same time a little goofy, you know?
Right.
Basically, the idea is that it's the post-apocalypse, and cities are now vehicles. It takes place in like Europe. You don't see a lot of the rest of the world.
Right.
So essentially what you have in this movie is lots of little tiny cities. So you have like mining cities, and that's like small. But then you also have the predator cities. You have which the only one you see, which is a big disappointment, is London. And it's awesome. It's a massive city that also has like tank track, like just like the tank tracks are like 40 feet across. But like they're just these massive cities that is in London now, and it goes across the wasteland, eating essentially smaller cities and using their
parts
and stuff, and incorporates their people into their community and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was a very disappointing movie though.
Yeah.
It started off great. The opening sequence essentially is England eating a mining town. And there are great lines like prepare to ingest, and the guy is referring to a city eating another city. And it's just like it's straightforward, like that's just what they say. They're like shooting these like big cables with the spears across in like, you know, Scorpion style, get over here. Yeah. And it's just such a ridiculous, it's like Mad Max, but they're cities instead of just cars. Like, it's so cool. Unfortunately, the story is just the dumbest, most cliche, most...
When we saw the preview, we said it looks like it's going to be a bad movie, but in the best way. And for you to say it's still disappointing is saying
it's not it's not a bad movie in the best way.
It's just a bad movie.
A bad movie in the best way would be one where I was actually interested in the story, or not interested in the story, but like having fun despite the story.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of that in this, but the story was it was your standard teenagers taking down the empire in the post-apocalypse, and then they kiss.
Well, I, on the other hand, have been reading a lot.
What a nerd.
I am in the midst of my 4th book of the year, and it's currently January 17th. You think you're better than us? Yeah.
That's fair. You are.
So, first book I read was Justin Files' side book called Briefcases.
Right.
And it's a short story compilation, and it was just really cool to get back into the Dresden stuff with stuff that I haven't read yet, obviously, because Jim Butcher's taking 150 years to come out with the next book. But it was really good, and it was but it's everything you expect. We get like first person perspective from a couple of new characters like Molly and Butters and whatnot.
Those people.
Yeah, so that was pretty good.
My favorite.
Then I read the Adventure Zone graphic novel after that.
Cool.
And it's wonderful. The art's
good.
great, and it does a really good job of like taking a podcast and putting it into a visual sense.
I'm glad, because that's what I got you for
Christmas. You got me that for Christmas, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. After I finished that, I started the newest Drizzt Do'Urden book, called Timeless. And that one, I've said this the past couple of ones, and I keep reading them because they're good and they're exciting, and I like the characters. But I really hope this is the last one.
Yeah.
And I said that about the last
said this
one
before,
and the one before that. Because there's only so much. First of all, power creep has gotten into this 100%, hard. And the climax of the last one, he killed the Demogorgon. So, which is like
in actual D&D world, a big deal.
Yeah.
If you've just watched Stranger Things, that's not a Demogorgon, guys.
No.
That's that's a pretty low level.
Imagine the god of those things.
Yes.
If
you watch the literal deity.
Literally, yeah. Literally, the god of those things is the Demogorgon in D&D, and like if you see the upside down, like the lightning strikes, and there's that giant thing that's like in the background, that's the Demogorgon.
And second season of Stranger Things would have been so much better if that was just like.
Hopefully that'll be season 3. But in this one, it seems like the villain is going to be Lolth, the goddess. So like, where the Demogorgon's like a lower planes god, Lolth is a higher goddess.
So it sounds like Drizzt has just become the new Kratos. The new old Kratos, where he just kills the gods.
And that's pretty similar. What they are doing well, though, is there's a lot of political intrigue also going on.
That's cool.
And they're making it so there's like entire cities that are involved, and like, you know, you can't stab an entire city with your swords.
Watch me.
I'm gonna watch you try and like get to like 5 people until you get shot. Anyway,
I just find a very small city.
Oh yeah, that's fair. So finished that, and it was pretty good. But now I'm starting the 4th Miss Peregrine's School of Peculiar Children, which was weird because they finished it in the 3rd one and put a nice bow on
Popular
it.
demand brought it back.
But
Philip Pullman did the same thing with the Golden Compass series.
And well, I'm just like 2 chapters into it, but it's pretty good so far.
Cool.
And I'm enjoying it. So
good.
I also finished Voltron. The series.
The anime.
Yeah, the series Voltron. Just season 8 was its series finale.
Good.
And I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I thought
I believe you.
Great.
You've also said you are attracted to a character in it many times. So whatever the guy is.
Oh, Keith?
Which is just strange.
Keith is wonderful. Yes.
His name is Keith, so I automatically don't believe you.
Man, Keith is the best.
You know what?
Keith is Space Boyfriend.
Oh, okay, sure.
But what was weird about it is there were a lot of people that were really disappointed in it, specifically because there wasn't enough gay people in it. And that was just a little bit annoying to
Peregrine?
me.
Are we talking about Peregrine?
No, we're talking about Voltron.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So there was from the very beginning, from like season 2, the LGBTQ community got in on this and like we're really enjoying. That's great. That's awesome. But they were just like screaming for representation in it. In which there was no nobody was attracted to anybody at all. There was no romanticism, romantic relationship at all in it. But they were screaming for, something in it, to the point that season 3 literally almost did not get made because there was like this hundreds of thousands of people signed a petition, maybe tens of thousands of people signed a petition saying, we will not watch your show unless you make a couple between Keith and Lance. And so Netflix was almost like, hey, maybe this isn't worth making right now. And so, but they made it anyway, and it's still really good, and people, of course, still watched it.
Right.
Anyway, finally, a romance blossomed, but it was in between a guy and a girl. So it was a traditional romance. And at that point, of course, more people were like, represent in some way. And that romance rose and fell, and then another one started with the same girl but a different guy. And at the very end of it, well, not the very end, but like end of season 7 and in season 8, it's implied, not directly stated, but mostly pretty heavily implied that one of the main characters is gay. But that's never really part of the character. Anyway, my whole point is, at the end, it's confirmed. The final episode, final season, they say, and Shiro, he finally found his happiness, and he's marrying a guy. And he kisses the guy, and that's the end of it. But other than one little romance, there's no romance in it at all. And it was really annoying to me that, like, that an entire community of people would be upset just because they weren't gay.
Like, I understand. Yeah, it's a hard topic to kind of address.
Maybe that is something we'll discuss.
Yeah, we should talk.
Yeah, we'd probably want to get somebody else in on that.
Yeah,
somebody who actually was disappointed in it and to talk about why they were disappointed. But
yeah, if you're interested, I guess. Let us know what your opinion is at least.
Anyway, we've been talking about our extended episodes to put on Patreon.
Yes.
And this is definitely falling into that now.
That's how we do. Yeah. So
because we're at 23 minutes.
Just so you know, we have a Patreon now, which we announced a few weeks back. And we decided that we like talking about stuff.
Every little once in a while.
Always. Doesn't matter when we are, like, what we're talking about. And
literally to the point that people in offices next to us get annoyed with us.
Yeah, we do not. Yeah, we have to move somewhere else so that they can't hear us. But we have decided that we're going to let ourselves talk a little bit longer about things that aren't our main topic.
Right.
Just kind of what we did that week, what we're interested in, what we're reading, all that, like we've done just now.
Right.
And we're going to have our extended discussion like that be part of our Patreon rewards.
Right. And also, if we ever get on like a side tangent of the main topic,
well,
that goes on so long, we're not going to limit ourselves as much anymore.
Right.
And our 45,
which has really only been you, because I'm more than willing to talk. You just are the one that watches.
I really
the time,
am.
And
yes,
you're like,
I'm looking at this time frame, and I'm like, shut up, Fox.
But yeah, so just so you know, we will not be editing out any of our main topic, though.
Right.
Like what our nerdy gritty topic is for that day. That conversation is really
will
going
always
to stay
get
there.
all of that.
So that being said, I think it might be time to
get down to the
nerdy gritty today.
So recently, teaser trailer just came out for Ghostbusters 3.
Yes, it did.
And that's interesting to me. That's weird because that means they're just kind of letting go with Ghostbusters Answer the Call.
That's been confirmed for a very long time.
But I don't know. I'm cautiously neutral.
Now, here's what we have to say. The teaser trailer does not feature any characters.
No.
It just shows a farmhouse, and the camera goes in. It's like dark and stormy, and there's like, it looks like the plasma. What do they call them? The ectoplasma gun things.
Those things.
Whatever they're called.
I'm gonna say plasma cannon.
You see like some of those like electricity type things that come out of those, but then like the wind blows up, and you find out that the Ecto-1, their car, is underneath, and then it's done. Like it's sitting there. And it's done. It doesn't show any characters. So we don't know anything. It's a true teaser.
But this began a conversation with myself and Rhymes with Moose, a guy that also follows Will Overguard on Twitch. So, hey, Moose, if you're listening, Rhymes with Moose.
No, it rhymes with Moose. He's not Moose.
Hey, Goose.
There you go. From Top Gun.
Thanks for talking with me about it and sparking this conversation. But I was saying how much I loved Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and he was like, yeah, how much Bill Murray's character aged, right? And I was like, wait, what does he mean by aged? And then I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? If we take Bill Murray's character, Venkman, in Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and we put that person in today's standards, if that was a human being today, that guy would be a creep.
That guy would fall into the Me Too category immediately.
Like, he's clearly sexually harassing people.
Yes, 100%.
Very clearly just a douchebag.
He's abusing his power as a teacher to sleep with students.
Yes. Like just rough.
Right.
And so this brought up a question that I asked Fox, and that is, should we view our beloved characters of the past through the progressive lens of the present?
Yeah.
We're just in a time frame today where we're starting to not assume that it's okay to do some of these things, to know that, like, hey, let's be good people, let's treat people equally, let's not, abuse power or anything like that. And so with all of this mindset today, we look back at times in which this was accepted and it was okay, and we see characters in which that lived in those times where it was accepted and okay, but now they just don't. I don't know. It seems a little off.
Yeah, our standards are very different now.
Very much
for
so.
what we accept as an okay character to depict.
Right.
And it seems to me like Venkman, Bill Murray's character, would today have to be like an obvious satire to be able to exist.
Right.
Like he would have to be the one that everybody else hates or makes fun of or goes to jail for his crimes.
Right.
Like some kind of consequences.
Or to me, he'd be like one of the villains. Like in Ghostbusters 1 and 2, there was like the lawyer guy.
Yeah,
who was kind of
or the
douchebag
mayor.
through it all.
The mayor was.
Yeah, the mayor was like that sometimes. He'd be one of those guys.
He'd
like
one of those like he'd
side.
or he'd be like some guy trying to convince the actual Ghostbusters, hey, you can make some money off this. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Or like it'd be some kind of,
smarmy.
Yeah, smarmy, like
Very
used
smarmy.
car salesman type guy.
Yeah.
Instead, he's a main hero. He's
and we love him for it.
We love him. We're supposed to, at least.
Yeah.
There are no consequences for his actions. People like roll their eyes a little bit, including Zool, whatever her actual name is.
Sigourney Weaver?
Yes, Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
She rolls her eyes a little bit, or is just like, oh.
But then she falls for him.
But then she falls for him. For him. Yeah.
Because
like,
it's lovable. Like
according,
guy.
yeah. And all of this, I keep wanting to say, according to the standard of the 1980s or whatever.
Right.
Like according to that standard, he was just a lovable, weird man. I don't know.
A lovable creep.
A lovable creep. That
I don't even
guy.
know how to describe that. A lovable womanizer?
Yeah.
That's true though. That's something we could say is in the 80s you could have a lovable womanizer.
Yeah, and you want to there was just more effort made to justify the behavior. Like, oh, he wouldn't actually do anything that would put a woman in danger. He was that was just his his person, like his humor style.
He just wants to get in the bone zone.
Yes,
that's all.
That's where he wants to be.
Is the area of bone zoning.
Right.
So it's a cemetery. That's the bone zone.
Oh.
It's the Ghostbusters. So
that makes no sense. Let's move on.
So what do you think, Fox? How do we do this? How do we balance what we have in the past? Because here's what I'll tell you. I've been thinking about this a lot since we brought it up, and I'm still super torn on how to address this.
Well, because, if we wanted to get political and widen it out, it's kind of the same idea of like Confederate statues to me.
Right.
It's like it's something from a different era that some people are perfectly fine with and actually want, and other people view as offensive and should no longer be accepted or tolerated in society. And so to me it come like my opinion on both of those things. I'm not trying to talk about Confederacy,
right.
But my opinion on both of those things is kind of the same, where it should be viewed as like a historical artifact.
My thoughts is put it in a museum. Put it in a museum.
Well, sure.
And
sure, it belongs in a museum.
Yeah.
But it's a little different when it comes to media, when it comes to movies or even video games. That's kind of what I've looked at, characters from older video games or even more recent ones, I guess, that kind of fall into this category of not really acceptable by today's standards, where it's not just something you see or like you've seen or just exists. It's something you interact with. It's something that you might have interacted with as a young person, and it's been part of your there's nostalgia.
Right.
A lot of nostalgia mixed up in with people's love for Ghostbusters. Now, as far as a movie being like it is a solid movie.
It's great.
Characters are interesting. They at least have personalities. They're fun. There's real good comedic timing. The structure is very solid. Like you have, it's just a very solid movie as far as movie making goes. Obviously, it's not an Oscar winner. It's not like the most emotionally resonant piece of art in history. But it is it's like Die Hard. It's very good at what it's attempting to do. Yeah. Doesn't make it an amazing movie, but it's very good. And so, how do we approach something that is, one could say objectively, a solid, well-made movie with good, all these things, but also contains these artifactual, I don't know if that's a word I'm looking for. I don't even know if that's a word. Like behaviors and concepts that are no longer tolerated in today's society. I say we look at it as a piece of history, but with an understanding that it's not necessarily how it should be done anymore.
Right. See, man, here's kind of where I'm landing, and even in this, it's a vague answer, but I think enjoying it for the good qualities of it, like enjoying Venkman for being a funny guy, for being quippy, for being a wisecracker, and all that other
his
stuff,
comedic timing. I mean, it's Bill Murray. His
right.
comedic timing is perfect. There's some
Yes.
lines in there that are just amazing.
I'm already giggling at all of them. They're so good.
It's true. This man has
This
no
man
dick.
has no penis. This man has no dick. Yes. Oh gosh, it's so good.
There's such good lines in there.
But to just recognize from an outside perspective, but that's not okay anymore.
Right.
You
and
know,
so
that's not okay
it's like,
anymore.
It's also, it's like a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. Like, I don't know. Like,
or can we do that though? See, and here's what I don't want to do. Here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to look back at Ghostbusters and think to myself, that's a bad movie now. Because the main character is a bad person, that's a bad movie, and everybody who likes it is bad, and just to label it as like all of it is bad now.
yeah.
Because there are still really good qualities. For example, and this is one thing that I was looking up earlier. For example, if we take Song of the South.
Right.
Song of the South is, if you guys don't know this, it was a Disney movie made in 1946, and it was very racist.
Just like, blatantly racist.
Yeah, I'm not even going to say subtly. Like there's literally it's a lot of like mini episodes all focusing on Brer Rabbit, Brer Bear, and Brer Fox, but there's one episode called Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby.
Yeah.
And it's all about Brer Fox trying to trick Rabbit into believing he's talking to an African-American child by lumping tar together and putting clothes on it. Like, just some really offensive
just blatantly
stuff.
Just not even attempting to be satirical, just racist.
Yeah. But Splash Mountain is entirely based on...
It is. Those characters are in Splash Mountain.
And people still walk around singing zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day.
Right.
And I think that we still have a way, and I think Disney's done a decent job. They're more trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, but still done a decent job of highlighting the good things of this, of good characters. Like, for example, on the ride Splash Mountain, there's an area that is part of that story in which, in the story, in the book and in the movie, Brer Rabbit is stuck in tar. He's covered in tar now, and Brer Fox is sneaking up on him. In the ride, he's stuck in honey. He's gone to go get some honey from bees, and he's actually stuck in a beehive, and he's surrounded by honey. And it's Disney's way of being like, hey, we're not going to talk about tar babies here. That's not okay. We're not going to reference that moment. But we did still have moments of when Brer Fox was creeping up on Brer Rabbit, and we want to represent that in some way. And so I think Disney's done a decent job, an okay job of saying this exists. Yes, it's real, and there were good things that came from it. The song Zippity-Doo-Dah and some of the other songs were beautiful songs and really cool, encouraging songs, and we're okay with having those songs here. But the other references and the other things that came of this were not okay. Now, what they do is they say, so we're not going to talk about it, and nobody's going to talk about it. We're not going to let anybody talk about it. And I don't think that's okay. I think having an honest, like, it would be kind of interesting to me if you were to walk in a store in Disneyland and it were to say, you know, just in one of the corners of a store, there was a sign that says something like, we are aware that Song of the South depicted some pretty offensive things, although Disney does not represent those things at all anymore and are not okay with that. So therefore we have eliminated references to that, but kept the joyful, lovable feel that Song of the South tried to, to give.
It would be a pretty big downer if that, like, there's like a content warning as you're like getting on the
like
ride
walking in.
at Splash Mountain. But so what if they just updated Splash Mountain to an entirely different cartoon?
And see,
what if it just wasn't Song of the South characters anymore?
Because at what point then do we not just eliminate everything? Like, there are other movies that are a little bit racist, and then at that point, there are movies that are blatantly racist but are meant to be, like American History X or Schindler's List.
Well, there's a pretty big difference in tone and the message
absolutely.
they're trying to send there.
Yes, and both of those movies are trying to talk about how racism is bad.
Right.
Where Song of the South is
Song of the South is
not.
just racist.
Yes. And so to me, I fear throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Because, and I don't want to make the slippery slope argument because that's a really bad debate tactic, but I will make let's say we draw the line at Song of the South and saying we need to just toss that out entirely.
Okay.
What about other like movies that have some pretty racist overtones, even like Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles. Blazing Saddles, it's all joke. It's all laughing. It's
satire,
all in jest.
Yeah, no.
And it's all satire, and it's hilarious. I love Blazing Saddles, but there are some pretty racist overtones in that, purposely so.
Sure, and yeah, that's the hard part about judging these things, because a lot of comedy is based on like is more about the audience reaction or the audience context, how they receive the joke rather than how it's told. And so I like the idea of like, hey, this is how it was. We changed it because we weren't okay with that, but this is what it was like. So yeah, maybe not replacing the entire thing. What if you even put that little warning there on the line of Splash Mountain?
And that'd be awesome.
Right.
See, I think something cool. You're in the line for Splash Mountain,
like
and
everybody's reading this.
And it recognizes.
You cannot miss it.
It recognizes, hey, we know.
Sure.
It was bad, and it was not. It was really bad, and we don't like it either. But there were some things about it that were worth keeping, and so we kept them.
Right.
And I think that is an appropriate response. And so if we were to come back around and talk about Bill Murray and Venkman again, I think we as fans of the franchise of Ghostbusters can say the character of Venkman was funny and he's got great comedic timing, and the movies themselves are fun all-around movies to watch, and they deliver a really, really good time. Man, Venkman's a creep, though.
Right, and so that's the hard, because a ride at Disneyland is a little different than like every movie from the 80s that has a character. Like we talked about this very briefly, that was just standard. Like 16 Candles basically has a rape scene, but that's considered a beloved like classic coming of age teen drama, like John Hughes, like just great movie.
Animal House, Revenge
Animal
of the
House,
Nerds.
all those like sex comedies are basically just about men assaulting women throughout the movie and like that kind of thing.
Well, and the women, of course, are all depicted as loving it,
or just like, oh, you goofballs, stop it, you jerks, but really not doing anything
right
like that they really would be doing if this was actually happening to them.
Yeah, or like the psychological damage.
No consequences coming of the illegal and vicious actions done by the protagonists. Now here's an example of something that actually has happened. I've seen this before and I just remembered it, so I looked it up.
Okay.
Warner Brothers put this, I don't know what specifically, they might have done it a few times. So they put this before some of their old Looney Tunes cartoons.
Oh, okay.
Looney Tunes films.
Yeah.
The cartoons you are about to see are products of their time. They may depict some of the ethnic and racial prejudices that were commonplace in American society. These depictions were wrong then and are wrong today. While the following does not represent the Warner Brothers view of today's society, these cartoons are being presented as they were originally created, because to do otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed.
And
that's just a simple title card that comes up before the actual cartoon.
That's awesome.
It is great.
Yes. I really like that. And that's one of those things, and it's really good, and I'm glad they do that, but does Ghostbusters now need to have that at the very beginning?
See, that's the question.
Hey, Venkman's kind of a douchebag, and we realize that.
You could say, like, Venkman, there's also a difference, I think, between a cartoon and an actual, like, human character. Because there are people that are like Venkman's, like, there are people that are like Venkman.
Yeah,
like
today.
That's their humor style. Today,
yeah.
People find it funny because of the things he's doing, which they might not consciously understand that it's sexist and, like, assault. But that's, like, their humor style, whereas a cartoon is depicting, like, it depicted depicting things for children to watch that are racist, and there's a difference there, if you see what I mean. So, and it seems like every movie has at least one character that is like, comedies often have a character that's supposed to be offensive and funny at the same time. And so do we have to have a title card before all of our comedies now? Like, I just watched Crazy Rich Asians last week or 2 weeks ago, and there's lots of humor in there about like stereotypes about Asians told by Asian people.
Right.
But should they have to put a title card before it that says,
hey, Asians made this?
Yeah, not all Asians are like this. This is just a character's depiction, not necessarily the viewpoint of the creators of the film, you know, or the author of the book this is based on, you know, that kind of thing. Or do we just have to come to an understanding culturally that making fun of ourselves is okay sometimes, and B, like, do we have to just say that, okay, you don't have to like this, get over it?
And I hate to say it, but I think that might be the case.
Okay.
Then, I mean, for cartoons, I think that's a great idea, because cartoons are, number one, supposed to be like overt. They're supposed to be overdone in their ways.
Well, sure, yeah.
And so some of the racism that they'll depict is overt.
Like a Tar Baby.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not subtle.
Whereas there are other times in which, with humanity in general, it's a little more subtle. Like, you wouldn't look at Venkman in Ghostbusters and just classify him as, I mean, he's sexist for sure.
Yeah, you wouldn't just be like, what a sexist pig, without like first hearing his humor and just kind of getting an idea of who he is, maybe throughout the movie. Right.
And maybe you don't like him throughout the whole movie. Maybe you're not a fan of him, but that's okay. You don't have to be a fan of him. So part of me wants to say that, yeah, just saying deal with it is part of it. You know, we can understand as people, as long as we're wise enough to say, man, that's not okay. I think that's a good thing.
Sure.
And yes, there will be people out there who are not wise enough to say that, and who are going to think Venkman's just fine, or the way that he acts is just fine, or Duke Nukem is just fine. You know, to get into the subject of video games, to think that, yeah, that Duke Nukem's just a cool dude, or whatever else.
Or just to try to like explain it away. Oh, it's just satire.
Right.
Whereas that's always been who his character is. And sure, they might be like parodying, but that's still what he does and says.
Right. And it doesn't make him okay.
It doesn't make it okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, yeah. So so it would be one story, though, if a movie today came out that was depicting an entirely new character that is like this. That'd be real easy for people to be like, how have you not understood like, this is, Me Too has been going on for several years, and obviously that's not the start of when things became like not okay, but it's like the cultural miasma right now is much more blatantly, hey, don't do this right now than it ever has been, as far as I know.
Right.
Whereas when Ghostbusters 3 comes out, if they depict Bill Murray's character in the same way that he was in the last couple, are they okay? Well, this is who he is. Or do they have to change him? Do they just not include Bill Murray? Do they?
Here's exactly what I say they do. I say they keep either the same character, but he also went through the same decades that that the movie has gone through, and he is older, and so he has changed his opinions.
Yeah.
Or even better, B, he's the same character and is suffering for it.
Sure.
And is really struggling. And, not Egon, sadly, R.I.P.
Right.
But, Dan Aykroyd and Winston, I can't remember the actor's name for that.
Me neither.
Those two guys are talking to him, and they're like, dude, you can't be this guy anymore. You can't.
Yeah.
You need to be better, because this is not okay.
We've talked about this before, or just briefly mentioned it, but any story can both be like funny and good, but also like have meaning to it.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters 3 could be a great opportunity to depict change, because you have a lot of people who are going to see it because they loved Ghostbusters as a child.
Right.
And especially older people, when this came out, when they were, and like, finally we get those women out of our Ghostbusters. We get the real Ghostbusters. When we get a lot of this, like, and if there's an opportunity here for this toxic masculinity to be addressed and like changed, and people aren't going to like that, but
But it should happen anyway.
It should happen.
Yeah.
It would be great because you can still have a witty Ghostbusters movie without a character who is a sexist.
Yeah.
Like that is not core to the Ghostbusters ideology. What's core to Ghostbusters is dry humor,
right,
about guys who hunt ghosts.
Yeah.
Like that's what it's about. It's really a very capitalist movie if you ever thought about it, because these guys confirm the existence of the afterlife.
And their first thought is, let's make money.
And the first thought is, let's start a business. You're like, all right, this is an American movie.
I love it.
Yeah. So I think that would be great if they took this moment and they're like, let's do some good.
So in our conversations, here's what I think I'm landing on. Things that are not being modernized, things that are, specifically left in the past. So Song of the South or Animal House or, any of those old things that are not going to be updated. I think we can look at them and say, sure, they're still funny, or there's still good music in that, or there is artistic merit to these things.
Sure.
But also recognize they were presented in a culture that made some things that are not okay.
Yeah.
Look, we recognize that, we know that, and let's not lie to ourselves about it. Let's not say, number one, wipe this from existence. Let's pretend it never existed. Let's plug our ears and close our eyes and go la 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 la.
Right.
That's not helping anything. But at the same time, don't just accept it for what it is. Be honest with yourself about the characters you love. It took me a while. Like when Moose said this, when Rhymes with Moose said this, I was like, he's not. No, he's. And then I had to do I had to do a check in my own brain, and I had to think honestly with myself for a second. I'm like, man, I never thought about this before, but yeah, he's kind of a douchebag. Like,
right.
Oh my gosh, he's not a good person. Like, and we know that. We know he's not a good person, but no, he's like a sexual harassing.
He is doing harm.
Yeah, he's like a bad person, and I didn't realize that until I honestly looked at it. So I think if we're just honest with ourselves about our beloved characters, we can still love the movie, we can still love their content, but we just have to be honest with ourselves about them.
Yeah.
But if we're going to update it, if we're going to bring these things into the present,
it's going to drag Ghostbusters into
2020
20 years later 30 years later for some stupid reason.
Then I think that we need to update the characters too. Especially if it's not going to be like a direct sequel. Like if they're trying to depict this in 1989 or something like
Why
that.
Are you so? What has happened to you?
You guys,
are you the ghost now?
Being this close to the spiritual world has aged us 30 years.
Ooh,
it's insane.
You get some real good like fantasy sci-fi stuff going on.
But that'd be one thing. But even then, you could still address like in the real world at that time, we may have jokingly and loved it, whatever, but those actions still harmed people in that time.
Yeah.
That doesn't make those things acceptable. So, sure, make it in 1989, but still address how it's not okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the plot of your movie.
Right.
It doesn't have to be Bill Murray's education. Like, it can just reference the fact that, nah, that's not cool, man. Like, have somebody else just call him out and say, stop it.
Yeah.
Kick him out of the Ghostbusters. Like
make him deal with. Oh, dude, that'd be really cool.
Give him some consequences to his actions.
Yeah.
Allow him to be funny at certain times as well, but also like character change is what makes a story good.
What if the ghost they're busting is him being haunted by his past?
Oh man, I want Ghostbusters 3 to have such a good. I want it to be like nominated for Oscars, like best drama, Golden Globes. Ghostbusters 3.
Now, best dramatic actor.
Best dramatic
Bill
actor.
Murray.
I mean, he's been dramatic before. He's always been funny, but he's also been dramatic.
I really want Egon to be a ghost in the movie. I'm just gonna toss that out to the side there.
I don't know, man.
I really want Egon to be one of the ghosts that they deal with in the movie. Come on.
Actually, that would be hilarious. That could be hilarious.
Yeah.
If he just shows up at the headquarters and he's just like, no, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
He's just annoying.
No,
Get out of here.
We will bust you. We will bust
you again. You want to go back in the box?
No. Oh, I want that to happen so bad.
Go back to the library.
Okay, so what about video games? We talked a little bit about like Duke Nukem, and I think for the most part we can say the same thing. But do we have to think any differently as it comes to video games?
So,
as we're being interactive.
I looked this up, and I looked up like lists of like, the most offensive video game characters in history, and a lot of them are very stereotypical, and most of them come from games that, I mean, really nobody cares about anyway.
Right.
There was one weird NPC in Deus Ex Human Revolution who was just a out and out like 70s like blaxploitation woman, like just talking like 70s jive talk, and like it just felt real weird because nobody else talked like that. So it's just like,
you best get straight out of here before I bust you, dynamite. That's
almost literally.
No,
literally, like go watch it. It's ridiculous. But so there's a lot of them that aren't like real. I mean, obviously they're a problem, but they're not like this character from Shadow Warrior is like, nobody knows what that game is. It's the follow up to Duke Nukem, which is like they went from sexism to racism, which is weird.
Right.
3D Realms had some problems, but like it's not like the cultural, like it's not Ghostbusters 3. They did remake Shadow Warrior, and it was still weird. It was still like racist, which is strange. But what I'm saying is that none of these characters, with a couple of exceptions, the one that has stuck out to me, though, that I've been thinking about is Mario. Being an Italian plumber is not a stereotype. I don't think that's a real stereotype that all Italians are plumbers.
Right.
But he speaks in such an Italian, like, stereotypical way. Like, that's the one to me. It's like, he's been so accepted and beloved for so long, but also he is a racist stereotype. Not racist. He's a nationalist stereotype. I don't know, like just a certain culture stereotype. But I mean, yeah, we also have Duke Nukem. We have like,
I think with Mario, the only thing about him is his accent. That is the only thing.
Right.
That
the
is
rest of him,
generalized
he
about
doesn't
him.
do anything.
He's got nothing.
He's
else
not like eating spaghetti or
right. He's not. I have to save the princess to get the spaghetti
Get
today.
the spaghetti,
Hey, you know, and get my pizza. Hey, you know, and he doesn't do that. He doesn't say hey or
El
clap with his hands or
Mussolini.
whatever. Like, honestly, what if he's just an Italian American? And
Right.
that is literally his accent.
Yeah, but
Like-
here's the hard part with that is, like, the argument that, well, stereotypes are based on something doesn't really satisfy people.
I don't want to say that Mario is a stereotype because we're taking one part of him. Now, again, if he was an Italian mafioso that
has a gun.
yeah, and lasagna that he carries with him everywhere, you know, his noodle pockets. And then
That'd be a better game.
then yes, there are some things that we need to address there.
Sure.
But like,
It's true.
he's got an accent and throws fireballs out of his hands.
Like all Italians. Des, come on.
So, but here's my thought on it, because with video games, there's a little bit of an extra step in which we are literally interacting with this medium.
Yes.
And like, I remember playing Duke Nukem and thinking how cool it was when I was a kid.
Me too. I played Duke
he wants
Nukem
to
on the
kick ass
64.
and chew bubble gum, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
But he's all out of gum.
All out of gum.
And he thought he was so
Hail to the
cool,
king,
and I
baby.
thought he was so cool. And because it was interactive, like, it was that much more of a step to me wanting to be like him or whatnot. I think, honestly and truly, some of those things we should say, yeah, we're leaving that in the past.
Let's not play Duke Nukem
Yeah,
anymore.
but let's not.
Don't make a Duke. Don't
Nukem
ever make a
anymore.
Duke Nukem.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
they're
just
not
like,
going to because of Duke Nukem
It
forever.
was so
But
bad.
don't ever make one ever again.
Yeah, I think we're okay to look back and just be like, those games existed. They weren't great games as far as games
Well,
go.
Duke Nukem 3D was pretty fun.
It was a first person shooter, a 3D.
It was
first
trying to
person
compete
shooter.
with Doom, and it didn't work. Didn't
Yes.
like succeed in beating it, but it was just basically.
Yeah, if you want to have that type of gameplay, play Doom or Wolfenstein.
right, yeah, I'm
If
okay
you
with
wanna
people
play
being
that
racist
character,
against demons.
You need to update your opinions, like.
right.
So to me, I think it's okay for video games to be like, we're just not going to do Duke Nukem anymore. You know,
Oh sure.
we're just not going to do BMX XXX again. we're
Whoa.
not going to do.
Whoa,
that,
now I
guys.
have problems here.
And I also like, you know, I don't think you can do this with Duke Nukem, but like Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider's update was great.
Right.
And I think they've been doing an awesome job with it. And just saying like, okay,
I mean, sure, they've been fine.
we have, up with the updating.
I got you. Yeah,
Like-
she's a real character now.
Yes, like we had sexualized adventure character.
Well,
let's update her.
That's not always, I mean, there were plenty of women who found Lara Croft to be perfectly fine because she wasn't just a sex object.
Right.
Like in Duke Nukem, you literally just had hot babes
Strippers.
in bikinis and strippers that just were that you had to save, quote unquote.
Right.
Lara Croft was a successful, intelligent adventurer who was just as tough as any other male character,
if not more,
and like also wore fairly revealing clothing and had a very unrealistic body type.
And I think they've done a great job updating exactly that.
Sure. No,
she's still all of those things and wears, the actual clothing she should wear.
Sometimes.
Yeah, pants.
Like a shirt that isn't 3 sizes too small.
Exactly. Doesn't have lower back problems.
Right. So yeah, they've done a good job updating that. I think what video game designers need to do though is recognize whether or not like what the point of updating something, what remaking something is.
Right.
And this goes beyond just like character stereotype, updating problematic characters and stuff. But like, are you updating Lara Croft? Lara Croft. Are you making a new Tomb Raider because you have a good idea and you want to bring her into the 21st century because you enjoy the character and want to do something good? Or is it, and Lara Croft is just an example. Obviously, they did a good job. But with character X that you have in your back pocket, is it brand recognition or even maybe controversy?
Right.
Like, what are you doing with this character? Is it just, people liked it at one point, let's make a new one? Or do you genuinely think you can do something good with the character? Because there's a big difference there in what your purpose behind, and people will see that. People know what you're doing and why you're doing it.
I mean, it's like the mass shooting simulator that we talked about
sure.
a year ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what else we've heard about that? Nothing.
Absolutely
nothing. It got shut down so fast because everybody saw right through that garbage.
It wasn't a piece of art. It was not one that was made with good intentions, and people recognize that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So... well, if I have to put a cap on it, then here's what I'll say. I think it's healthy for us to look at our beloved characters with the lens of, with the progressive present lens. I think that's good. I think it's healthy for us to understand this guy's hilarious and I loved him a lot when I was a kid. And sure, he's still funny now, but he's also kind of a douchebag and just not a great person. Because you know what? That shows us that humans are humans. They're going to have good qualities and bad qualities.
Sure.
And you can like somebody without idolizing them. I can like Venkman and be like, I sure wish he wasn't a womanizer and a sexist though, but he's really funny.
Sure.
Like I can like that funny side of him without saying that it's okay what he's doing. And I think we can recognize that. We don't have to say that he's a perfect person and everything he does is just fine. We can say that is a bad part about him and he should not do that, but he's also really funny.
Right. And also maybe someday we will look back at Ghostbusters and they'll be able to say, this is a pretty good, like this is a historical depiction of the 1980s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it was very capitalistic in America. People were, but you also had sexism that was just accepted.
Yep.
And like good art doesn't necessarily need to like set out to recreate the time it's made in but it will be.
Yep.
It will show the themes, the things that are important to people when they make them.
And then if we're going to bring any of that stuff into the present, we need to put it through the filter of the present. We can't have it be the same or it's going to fail.
Yeah.
It should fail.
Part of me wants to say like there's a place for satire, there's a place for like there's a lot of 80s nostalgia right now where it's depicting 80s things, but not in a serious way and just kind of making fun of them.
Right.
And they're still okay. Like, so.
But you can do that with it still being okay. Like,
it's true.
You don't have to update Dan Aykroyd's character. That guy was a lovable nerd and he's a lovable nerd.
Lots
he can
of
be a
people
lovable nerd still.
Have a third mortgage on their home.
And it's great. You know what I mean?
Dang, it's another Venkman joke. I'm a sexist now.
And so you can update,
right?
You can have him modern, and it's fine. There's going to be plenty of characters, but you also, again, we have to look at these characters with a modern lens and understand that some of the things they did were not okay.
Yeah.
And if we're going to bring them into modern times, we have to address the fact that that's not okay.
and personally accept that maybe what we thought was okay and maybe still think is okay is not.
Yeah.
That we can be wrong about how things are, what is funny, what is not funny.
And become better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that Gillette ad. Everybody
who
you
brought
like
it in.
The Gillette
Nice.
ad are the worst. If you dislike the Gillette ad, it was for you.
Yes.
You're the one who needs it
the one
the
who
most.
doesn't like it is the one they made it for.
I love that Gillette ad. It was really good. Okay. Thanks, guys, for listening. Thank you so much for your support. Hey, if our little chat with you today made you run by our Patreon, thank you so much for even taking a look and being curious about it.
Yeah.
That lowest one is $1 one. And if you're willing to give us $1 a month, we really, really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing this, for liking this. And always remember, guys, that saved games save lives.